Post 1. Am I the jerk for preparing my grandkids for their parents' death? I'm a 62-year-old grandmother, and I honestly do not recognize the way my son and his wife are treating me right now. My son Jake, 35, and his wife Erin, 33, have 3 kids. My oldest granddaughter, 8, my grandson, 5, and my youngest granddaughter, 3. They are my only grandchildren. I've helped since day one. I watched my oldest granddaughter while Erin was in labor with my grandson. I slept on their couch when my youngest granddaughter came home, and Erin couldn't cope and needed an extra pair of hands. According to them, I am now so dangerous that I'm not allowed to see them. This all started over a single weekend. Jake and Erin got invited to an out-of-town wedding. No kids. They made a big production out of how rare it was, how they never go anywhere alone, which is not true, but fine. And then they asked me to keep the kids from Friday morning to Sunday evening. I work part-time, I have a life. But, of course, I said yes. They are my grandchildren. I rearranged my shifts, stocked up on snacks, pulled the old kids' books out of my basement. I was genuinely excited. Every time I see them, it's rushed an hour here, a quick dinner there because Erin is always on a schedule. Before they left, Erin gave me a literal binder, printed pages of instructions, bedtimes, which cup my youngest granddaughter prefers, how many minutes my grandson can have on the tablet, phrases I should use if they cry. It was like being handed a manual for a toaster. I raised a son, I joked. I think I can figure out 3 children for 48 hours. She did this tight little smile and said, "Please just follow it, Linda. Consistency is important." They left Friday morning, Sunday around 7, as if I've never told time in my life. The first day was lovely. Pancakes, movies, the yard. They asked when mom and dad were coming back. Completely normal. Kids don't really understand time. I said jokingly, "Well, you're stuck with grandma now." They laughed. It was light. But as the evening wore on, they kept asking, "Are they coming back tonight? Tomorrow? What if something happens on the highway? What if their car crashes?" Kids can be morbid. Jake at that age used to ask if I would die in my sleep every night for a month because of some TV show. Here is where everyone has decided to hang me. I told them, very calmly, sometimes accidents do happen. Grown-ups can get hurt. Cars can crash. I may have said something like, sometimes cars can even catch fire, because that's reality, and kids latch onto concrete images. Then I said, that's why it's important to know that if anything ever did happen, Grandma would be here to take care of you. They kept pushing. But what if they die? What if they don't come back? So I answered them. I said, if something happened to your mom and dad, you would come live with me. You would have your beds here, we would go to a new school, and I would make sure you're safe. We walked around the house and talked about where their things would go, as a hypothetical. Children that age need concrete images, not vague reassurances. I did not sit them down and say, your parents are dead, full stop, the way Erin tells people. I did not announce a fiery crash. I said, if they died, this is what would happen. Because they were clearly anxious and I wanted to show them they would not be abandoned. Did I lean into it a bit? Maybe. I'll admit I can be dramatic. I told them, if there was a crash, the police would call Grandma and I would come get you. Which is true. Who else would they call? The neighbor. They cried a bit. We talked. I hugged them. Children cry. That doesn't mean you've traumatized them. When my husband died, Jake was 10. I didn't have the luxury of pretending death didn't exist. We talked about coffins and funerals and heaven. Somehow he survived that, but now I'm considered abusive for mentioning that cars are not immortal. By Sunday, they seemed fine. We baked cookies, we played. They were clean and fed and in one piece when Jake and Erin walked in. That's when everything exploded. They walked through the door and the kids who had just been watching a cartoon saw them and started crying. To me, it was part excitement, part we've missed you, very normal. Erin immediately went into panic mode. What did you tell them? She demanded. The kids, now feeding off her hysteria, started babbling. My oldest granddaughter said, Grandma said you died. My grandson said something about car crash and fire. Erin's face went white like I'd actually murdered someone. I tried to explain. We were talking about what would happen if something happened. I was preparing them. You could have had an accident. You were driving hours away. That's reality. She acted like I'd sat them in front of some horror movie. You told them we burned to death, she said. You made them believe we were gone? No, I said. I told them that if the worst ever happened, they would not be alone, that they would live with me, that I would always be there. Maybe I shouldn't have gone into so much detail, but it came from a place of caring. She started throwing around words like traumatized and abused. Jake, instead of backing me up, just stood there looking shell-shocked. We argued. She accused me of weaponizing their love. I told her maybe if they weren't so addicted to their own free time, they wouldn't have such terrified children. She did not like hearing that. They scooped up the kids and left in a storm of drama. I assumed they'd cool off. We'd talk like adults. I'd say, I could have handled it better, and we'd move on. Instead, the next day, Aaron called me on speakerphone with Jake in the room and announced I was no longer allowed to see the children. Not for a week, not until things settle. Indefinitely. You terrified them for fun, she said. You broke their trust and ours. Until you understand how wrong that was, you are not part of their lives. I tried to explain again that it was about teaching them that they are protected, that if something did happen, their world wouldn't end. She just kept repeating, You told them we were dead, like a magic spell that excused her from listening. Jake said very little. That hurt the most. This is the boy I raised by myself, the boy I walked to school, the boy I sat up with when he had nightmares. I made one mistake, if you can even call it that, and he let his wife erase me. They've ignored my calls and texts ever since. I hear they put the kids in therapy because of me, as if I'm some monster that jumped out from under the bed, not the grandmother who took time off work so they could have a rare adult weekend away. In my generation, we did not bubble wrap children from every uncomfortable thought. We talked about death. We prepared them for the fact that parents are not immortal. I didn't hit anyone. I didn't leave them alone. I fed, bathed, entertained them, and now I'm being treated like a danger. So, Internet, am I really the jerk for telling my grandkids their parents were dead when, in my mind, I was preparing them for reality and reassuring them they'd always have me? Update 1. It's unbelievable how fast a story grows legs once one dramatic person starts telling it. Within a week of that speakerphone ambush, I went from grandma who kept the kids for the weekend to abusive woman who traumatized her grandchildren in half the family group chat. I found out most of it secondhand. First wave was my sister, Marlene. She called sounding tentative, which is not her usual tone. So, she said, what exactly happened with the kids? Because I just got a very intense text from Jake. Apparently, Aaron wrote a novel in the cousin's WhatsApp. We left our children with Linda for one weekend and came back to find them physically shaking, sobbing, convinced we were dead because she told them we burned in a car crash. She left out that the children were the ones asking what would happen if there was an accident. She left out if, hypothetical, this is where you'd be safe. I told Marlene, we talked about what would happen if something happened. Aaron is spinning it like I made an announcement. Marlene sighed. Well, you know how anxious she is. Maybe just apologize so everyone can move on. Everyone expects me to grovel to smooth things over, but no one seems interested in the fact that my son and daughter-in-law cut me off completely over a conversation. Not a beating, not neglect, not leaving them in a hot car words. That obviously hit a nerve they don't want to look at. I tried calling Jake again, straight to voicemail. I left a message. I love those kids and I would never hurt them. If I went too far trying to prepare them, I can say sorry for scaring them, but this banishment is insane. Call me. Nothing. I texted, please don't make a mistake you can't undo. Children need their grandmother. Read? No reply. The silence hurt more than any shouted argument would have. I did what any lonely person does. I went to church. I've been in the same congregation for 30 years. These people watched Jake grow up. Over coffee after service, I finally broke and told a few friends, my daughter-in-law has decided I'm toxic and won't let me see my grandkids. They gasped in all the right places. When I said Aaron was putting the kids in therapy because I talked about death, one older lady put a hand to her chest. In our day, we took kids to Sunday school to learn about heaven, she said. Now they act like death is a swear word. Exactly. A few days later, Jake's aunt called. Linda, what on earth is going on? She demanded. I just got a call from Aaron saying you emotionally abused the kids. There it was. As if I sat them down with a script. I told her my side. The morbid questions, the plan, the if something happened, Grandma would be there. That Aaron walked in, saw tears, and made it all about her. She's always been dramatic, Aunt Karen said. I'll talk to Jake. This is ridiculous. I hung up feeling vindicated for about 5 minutes. Then the guilt crept in. Not because I suddenly agreed with Aaron's version, but because underneath my anger, there's still this heavy feeling. What if the kids really are that scared? What if they really are having nightmares? A mutual friend who sees them at school pulled me aside in the grocery store. She said the kids are in counseling because of what happened at Grandma's. She told me, your oldest granddaughter seems anxious. She wouldn't let her mom go to the bathroom alone at the PTA meeting. It hurt to hear, and it irritated me too. Aaron has always hovered. Of course, the oldest is anxious if every trip to the store is treated like a mission to the moon. That same week, one of Jake's cousins sent me a screenshot of Aaron's post in some parenting group. My MIL told my kids we died while they were staying with her. Now my 8-year-old refuses to sleep alone. Hundreds of strangers chiming in with, go no contact, she's dangerous, she's a narcissist, like they know anything about me from 2 paragraphs written by a woman who never liked me. I reached out to Jake one more time. I'm willing to apologize to the kids for scaring them. I am not willing to pretend I'm some kind of abuser. There is a difference. Read. No reply. That's when the sadness turned into something sharper. If he and Aaron want to paint me as a monster to justify their own guilt for leaving the kids, fine. I can't stop them. But I will not sit quietly and let the entire narrative solidify without my voice. So yes, I've told people my side. Church friends, sisters, neighbors. If that makes me playing the victim in Aaron's eyes, so be it. She's already made sure I'm the bad one and everyone else's. I'm not saying I handled everything perfectly. I'm saying the punishment does not fit the crime. They can keep me out for now, but time is on my side. Kids grow up. They ask their own questions. When that day comes, I want there to be at least one person who can say, it wasn't as simple as, Grandma is evil. Erin might have won the first round. She has my son cowed into silence. But I have something she doesn't. A lifetime of being there before she ever showed up. Update 2. If there is one thing people seem determined not to understand, it's that I am not going to sit here quietly while my own son forgets where he came from. After the initial drama and silence, things shifted. Erin stopped contacting me directly. Good riddance, but the guilt machine started through other people. Be the bigger person. Reach out again. Don't let her win. The more I heard that, the more I realized everyone expects me to fix this. Fine, I know how to fix things. I stopped wasting energy on Erin. You cannot reason with someone whose whole identity is perfect mother. Any hint that she might have made a mistake gets spun into someone else is abusive. So I went back to the person who actually matters. Jake. I started small. No long voicemails, just, hi honey, it's mom, I miss you, call me when you can. Calm, sad, reasonable. He ignored a lot of them, but ignoring guilt is work. Eventually he slipped. It happened at Christmas. Late Christmas Eve, my phone buzzed. His name. I answered on the first ring. Jake? I said, trying to keep my voice level. Hey, he said, tired. I can't talk long. The kids are finally down. How are they? I asked. I've been so worried. I know I'm not supposed to ask, but I'm still their grandmother. They're okay, he said. The oldest is anxious, the middle has nightmares, the youngest is too little to understand. There it was. They cut me out, put them in therapy, and guess what? Still not perfect, but somehow I'm the only cause. I hate that I scared them, I said. I would never hurt them on purpose. I just wanted them to know I'd be there if, God forbid, something did happen. But Aaron has turned me into a monster in their minds, and in yours, apparently. Mom, I don't think you're a monster, he said quickly. Don't you? I asked softly. You won't let me see them. You won't even let me apologize properly. What does that make me, if not someone you're afraid of? It's not that simple, he said. Aaron's upset. The kids are scared. We're trying to do what's best. Erin is upset because she didn't like being reminded she could die, I snapped. Newsflash, we all die. The only thing she's accomplished is making sure that when I do die, they won't have a single good memory of me near the end. He exhaled. I don't want you to die thinking we abandoned you, he said quietly. Then don't let that happen, I said. Don't let one imperfect conversation define the rest of my life with my grandchildren. The next day, Christmas Day, he came by. Just him, no kids, and he looked like a man walking into a storm. We had coffee. I didn't scream or beg, I just reminded him. Reminded him of the nights I sat up when his father was in the hospital, who paid for his first car, who watched his kids every time Erin called sobbing that she couldn't handle it. A mother doesn't stop being a mother because her son gets married, I said. She isn't replaced. It's not about replacing you, he said. It's about what's safest for the kids. Safe? I said. You think they're safer with a mother who tells them hard conversations are abuse? Or with a grandmother who shows them that yes, bad things can happen, but they'll survive? He didn't answer. I'm not asking you to choose between us, I said finally. That's what she's doing. I'm saying you can have both. Let me apologize to them, with you there when you're ready. Supervised, controlled, whatever you need. He nodded slowly. I'll think about it. People think I'm explosive, that I don't know how to play the long game. I do. I survived a husband who drank, a job that nearly broke my back, and raising a son alone. I can survive being painted as the bad one if it means I get my place back in the end. Update 3. After Christmas, things didn't change overnight. I didn't suddenly get a house full of grandkids again, but the temperature shifted. He stopped sounding like he was reading from Erin's script and started sounding like my son. He called more. Short calls, always with that wary tone, like he was afraid Erin was listening. How are you? I'd ask. Tired. The kids are a lot right now. And he'd let details slip, the oldest hovering, the middle waking up, the little one crying at drop-off. One Sunday afternoon, my phone rang. Hey, Mom, Jake said. We're at the park. I could hear kids in the background. How are they? I asked. Do they even remember me? Of course they remember you, he said after a pause. We just don't talk about what happened. You mean Erin doesn't talk about what happened? I said. Those kids probably think I'm some kind of monster right now. He didn't argue. I took a breath. Can I talk to the oldest, just for a moment, so she can hear that I'm real and alive and I love her? Silence. Jake, I said softly, I'm not asking to take them overnight. I'm asking to say hello. You're standing right there. Okay, he said finally. But just for a minute. I heard him move the phone. Sweetie, Grandma wants to say hi. Hello? Tiny, cautious voice. Hi, sweetheart, I said, forcing my voice steady. It's Grandma. I've missed you so much. Daddy says I can talk to you, she said. Only for a little. We talked about small things, school, books, cookie baking. She even laughed once. Then I asked the question I know people will judge, but I don't regret. Do you still love me? I said. Long silence. I don't know, she whispered. It hurt. Of course it did. I understand, I said. You've heard a lot of things. You're allowed to feel confused. I just need you to know. I never wanted to hurt you. If I scared you that weekend, I'm sorry. I talked about scary things because I wanted you to know you'd be safe with me if anything bad ever happened. Not because I wanted you to cry. Mom says you lied, she said. Grown-ups remember things differently sometimes, I said carefully. I talked about what would happen if something bad happened. It was never my intention to make you feel like your parents were gone. Then I heard Jake. Okay, say bye. We have to go. Bye, Grandma, she said, softer now. Bye, sweetheart. I love you. No matter what anyone says, that part is always true. The line clicked and Jake came back on. Mom, he said tense. You can't ask her that. That's not fair. What's not fair, I said, is being turned into a shadow in her head. He sighed. Erin is going to lose it if she finds out. Then don't tell her, I said. I'm not asking you to start a war. I'm asking you not to let her erase me. After that call, things didn't open up. Not yet. If anything, it slammed him with the reality of what he'd done. For a long time, I didn't hear their voices again, but I knew the crack existed. Update 4. You know that saying, time heals all wounds? It's not true. Time just makes people tired of holding grudges. It's been a little over a year since the incident, and surprise, the world did not end when Aaron banned me. Life kept going, kids kept growing, and my son eventually stopped treating me like radioactive waste. I still didn't have regular access. I didn't get invitations. I didn't get holidays. What I got was one rainy day that changed the temperature again. Jake showed up with the kids without warning, all of them looking a little wired and too excited. He didn't say park, he didn't say I'm sneaking. He just said quietly, we needed a breather. Can we come in for a bit? Of course we could. I kept it simple. Board games at the table, cookies I'd baked, just in case. I didn't bring up the weekend. No car crash, no death, nothing Aaron could twist. I just was grandma. I saw the tells. The oldest granddaughter's eyes flicking to the clock, my grandson flinching when a phone buzzed, the youngest asking, Mommy coming too? After about an hour, Jake said, Okay, guys, say bye. We have to go. On the porch, he lingered, rubbing his face. She can't know, he said. And I said, Because I'm not stupid. Then don't bring a camera crew. Don't post. Don't tag. Keep it quiet. I thought we had. 2 days later, he called sounding sick. Aaron got a picture, he said. Apparently, someone who lived nearby had seen the kids in my yard and sent Aaron a photo like it was a cute joke. Aaron did not treat it like a cute joke. Jake didn't give me details, but I could picture it. The rage, the tears, the accusations, the demand that he pick a side. All I said was, You can't live your whole life asking permission to love your own mother. He didn't answer, but he didn't hang up. That was the real shift. Not the visit itself, the fact that secrecy didn't work as a solution anymore. Final update, 2 years later. It's been almost 2 years since the weekend, and apparently I am still the main character in a story I don't recognize whenever Aaron tells it. From my side, things have settled. Not into a fairy tale, but into a pattern I can predict. I still don't see Erin. At all. She has committed to her role. No calls, no texts, no eye contact at school. If we're in the same room, I'm one step up from a stranger. Fine, I genuinely don't miss her. What I do see regularly, if not as often as I'd like, are my grandchildren. Jake and I have stopped pretending. No more, we just happen to be in the area. He calls and says, We're coming by, and I put on coffee and check the biscuit tin. We still keep it quiet in the sense that he doesn't pre-announce it to Erin like he's requesting approval. She usually finds out the way she always does. Through the kids, through schedules, through the parts of life you can't fully control once people stop cooperating with your narrative. The kids are where the change is clearest. My grandson, now 7, and my youngest granddaughter, 5, are my shadows when they're here. They barrel in, shout over each other, raid my fridge, drag me to the yard to, watch this, Grandma. It's pure, uncomplicated love. My oldest granddaughter is different. She's 10 now and walks into my house like someone stepping onto a stage she's not sure she agreed to. Polite, careful, always slightly braced. She sits at the table with a book while the others play, watching. She talks to me, but it's measured, like every sentence has to pass through a filter. Will Mom be mad if I say this in Grandma's house? It stings. The little girl who used to fall asleep on my lap now keeps her distance. I still catch flashes of her old self when she laughs at something ridiculous my grandson does, or forgets herself and leans into me during a movie. But she snaps back quickly like she touched a hot stove. The closest thing to a slap in the face came through Jake, not the school. He came by one evening alone, sat at my table, and slid his phone across to me. A picture of a school hallway display. One of those My Family Hero projects. I saw my oldest granddaughter's page. 5 stick figures, 3 small, 2 tall. The tall one on the left labeled Mom, the other tall one blank. Her paragraph said something like, My hero is my mom because when something really scary happened, she believed me and helped me feel safe. She took me seriously and got me help instead of telling me I was overreacting. She always tells me the truth, even if it's hard, and she protects me even when other people say she's mean. My face went hot. Other people say she's mean. I don't know who she meant. Family, church people, me, but I know whose side of the story she hears most. I read it 3 times. There was a flicker of resentment. I have been sliced out so cleanly that I don't even exist in the big scary thing chapter. I'm just other people. Under that, something else surprised me, a tiny streak of pride. Because for all the ways Erin and I disagree, I can't deny my granddaughter has learned something crucial. She deserves adults who take her seriously. Part of me wants to scream that I was trying to prepare her, that my whole intention was to say, if the worst happens, you won't be alone. But the raw truth is that she doesn't care about my intention. She cares about what she felt. And in her mind, the person who showed up for that feeling was Erin, not me. Jake rubbed his face. She also told her teacher she wants to be a lawyer, he said, to help kids who had grown-ups lie to them. I actually laughed, harsher than I meant. Good for her, I said. Half the legal system is people arguing about whose version of the truth matters more. Then I sat with it. Because beneath the sarcasm was something real, a future where she grows up carrying this as a defining story, and I don't get to rewrite it just because I think I meant well. Here's what I've had to accept, 2 years out. Erin will never forgive me. Even if she mouths the word someday, she needs me to stay dangerous in the story she tells herself so she can stay brave in it. Jake is never going to split himself cleanly between us. He'll always be pulled in 2 directions, trying not to be a bad son or a bad husband. Sometimes I will lose that tug of war. The kids will grow up with 2 versions of events. In mine, I tried to prepare them for life's harsh realities and stepped wrong. In Erin's, I staged a psychological horror show for fun. They'll pick and choose pieces of both as it suits them. I don't get to write their internal script. What I can do, and have been doing, is show up calmly and consistently as myself whenever I get the chance. I am the grandmother who bakes cookies and listens to their stories even when I'm not in their essays, doesn't flinch when they bring up scary things, owns the part where I scared them more than I meant to, without signing a confession that I'm a monster. I still think the banishment was an overreaction. I still think Erin turned my imperfect judgment into a personality trait for herself. The mom who cut off the toxic grandmother. But I also can't deny there are consequences you don't talk your way out of, even if you don't fully agree with them. My consequence is that my oldest grandchild now keeps part of herself behind glass around me, and I don't get to smash it just because I know I meant well. Time didn't heal that, it just made it clearer. They'll grow. They'll form their own opinions. Maybe someday my oldest granddaughter will dig through all this and decide everyone was awful. Maybe she'll decide I was worse. Maybe she'll surprise me. Until then, I'm here, in my little house. With the swing set in the yard and the biscuit tin on the counter, not the monster, not the hero, just the grandmother who told a story badly and has been living with everyone else's version of it ever since.